Our last problem involves a new situation with some money related to nickels and dimes. It said Andre's coin jar contains 90 cents. There are no quarters or pennies in the jar. So the jar has all nickels and all dimes or some of each. Now we used to do this all the time. We would collect coins, we would put them in a big jar, and then we'd bring them to the bank after the jar was full. These days I so rarely have change that that's no longer really a thing. Use a credit card more often, but let's just take a look at what we have here. So write an equation that relates the number of nickels and the number of dimes, D, and the amount of money in cents that the coin jar has. Okay, well, let's think for a moment about how much the values are, right? So if we have nickels, we know that nickels are 5 cents, right? And then we also have dimes, dimes D, and dimes we know are 10 cents. And we know that Andre has a total of 90 cents, right? So that means our equation is going to be something like this then. 5 cents per nickel plus 10 cents per dime, right? So 5N plus 10D. And then that'll equal, let's come up with a new color up here, right? That equals 90 total cents. All right, so our equation is going to look like that. So kind of similar to what we did in the previous problems, how many nickels are in the jar if there are 0 dimes? Okay, so in this case, we're saying D is equal to 0. All right, so just so we are clear here, I guess the way we wrote this was that the second one was dimes. Let's label this dimes. And then the first one was nickels, so let's label the x-axis nickels. And that way we're kind of tracking. So in this case, we're really looking at the y value is 0. So D is equal to 0. Let's plug that into our equation up here. So 5N plus 10 times 0 equals 90 is what we're saying, because we said no dimes. Which really means 10 times 0 is 0, so that means 5N is equal to 90. And then dividing by 5 to undo multiplication, 90 divided by 5 is 18. So 18 nickels. All right, so this is the point 18, 0, because this is nickels and this is dimes. Okay, so we're gonna, let's maybe plot that right now. So that's way over here, 18, 0. And of course, then we have the reverse of that. How many dimes are in the jar if there's no nickels? So in this case, if N is equal to 0. So 5 times 0 plus 10 times D equals 90. 5 times 0 is 0, so that really means 10D is equal to 90. Dividing by 10, D is equal to 9. So if we think about what that would look like then, so dimes would be 9 and nickels would be 0. So we're talking about this point right here. So that'd be 0, 9, and this point over here, remember, was 18, 0. Graph your equation on the coordinate plane. Okay, well, we've already kind of gotten the pieces that we need in order to graph the equation. In order to graph the equation, you really need 2 points. And when we have it in standard form here, getting the 2 points as the x-intercept and the y-intercept is kind of an easier way to do that. We don't really even need to use the slope. So let's just draw that line. I'm gonna use a straight edge. I'm gonna use my little Notability technology to make that nice and straight. And now we have a relationship between the number of dimes and the number of nickels that would always add up to 90 cents. So for example, 10 nickels, which of course would be 50 cents. That matches up with 4 dimes, which would be 40 cents. So 50 plus 40 does equal 90. So that would be an example of a combination that would work. 10 nickels and 4 dimes does add up to 90 cents, along with a number of other combinations that are there. Okay, so there we have our equation graphed, and that's all we needed to do with this problem.